last Sunday as a pay-per-view TV special. How many people tuned in to see these 5 platinum rock acts in action? Well, according to Multi-Channel News, a cable industry trade paper, of the 13.4 million homes that were offered the concert, 1%, or about 134,000, paid $19.95 to see it. However, according to Bon Jovi manager Doc McGee, who was instrumental in organizing the festival and whose Make a Difference Foundation is one of its principal beneficiaries, the figures are still coming in, and he expects the total viewer count to ultimately reach about 240,000. There will also be a Make a Difference benefit album out in late October, featuring 1 live track from the festival, and a home video of the event should be available by Christmas. Another dividend of the Moscow Festival was a long-delayed confirmation of John Bon Jovi's mysterious marital status. As you may recall, the singer and his high school sweetheart, Dorothea Hurley, were reported to have flown from California to Las Vegas last April 28th for what appeared to be a spur-of-the-moment marriage at a quickie hitching post called the Graceland Wedding Chapel. Bon Jovi's management subsequently disclaimed any knowledge of the wedding, and according to the minister who performed the ceremony, Doc McGee actually inquired about the possibility of not filing the papers and thus annulling the marriage. On August 5th, though, 2 days before John and Dorothea left for Russia, they finally went public with a long after-the-fact wedding reception for family and friends at New York City's South Street Seaport. When they arrived in Moscow, we asked Bon Jovi to tell us the whole story, about which he still seemed kind of sheepish. What happened?
I've never done
Just wake up one night and you say, let's go to Vegas and get married, or what?
This is part of my drinking problem. I did it. I did it back in April, and all we did this Sunday was we had a huge party, which was really more or less a kicking off of going to Russia. You know, everybody was there, and a lot of the bands, or Cinderella was there, and a couple of the Motleys were in town, and Rat, and just we had a big party. It was really all it was in Manhattan.
But did you go to the Elvis, the chapel, the Graceland Chapel, because of the Elvis connection?
Elvis is in my body. He has taken over my body.
Did you
Elvis is not
tell your
dead.
folks when you did this?
No, nobody knew anything.
Boy, I bet they were happy to hear about this, right?
I don't know, but we did it.
Okay, meanwhile, back in the States, a group of marital veterans, the Rolling Stones, made news last weekend with one of their traditional surprise pre-tour club gigs at a noted rock spot called Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut, not far from the town of Washington, Connecticut, where the band has been rehearsing for its first tour in 7 years. No TV cameras were allowed in to shoot the one-off show, which a sold-out crowd of 700 lucky locals paid $3 apiece to see. Reports from inside were highly enthusiastic, however, and judging by the sound of the Stones' new single, Mixed Emotions, which was released a few days later, they may well be justified. The Stones' new album, Steel Wheels, will be out by August 31st when they kick off their tour at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. The 2 shows there, along with many others on the 3-month outing, are already sold out, but you can still get tickets for the group's concerts in Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Jacksonville, and East Troy, Wisconsin, among other places. And tickets are on sale this weekend for the Stones' October 26th and 28th shows at New York Shea Stadium. Ringo Starr was in nearby New Jersey last weekend to play a gig with his new band at the Garden State Arts Center. And since his current group includes guitarist Niels Lofgren and saxman Clarence Clemens of the E Street Band, it probably shouldn't have come as too much of a surprise when Bruce Springsteen himself walked out on stage, guitar in hand, to sing lead on the Beatles' Get Back and the old McCartney concert staple Long Tall Sally, and to join in on backup behind Starr for a rendition of his 1973 chart-topper Photograph. Springsteen was later ushered back out on stage by another celebrity in attendance, comic John Candy, for the encore, which appropriately enough turned out to be With a Little Help from My Friends. We'll be back in a moment with Boy George, Aerosmith, and a Ramon on his own. But first, let's see what sort of effect events like the Moscow Music and Peace Festival are having on America's perception of that formerly evil empire, the Soviet Union.
Do you see the Soviet Union as a threat or maybe a quote enemy to the U.S. or do you?
The Soviet Union? No, I see them as a friend to the U.S. I mean, I don't think they should be a threat.
I think the Soviet Union and the United States are coming together.
I'd rather see the U.S. and the Soviet Union work together, but, you know, humans are going to be humans, and they're going to always have their biases. One wants to control this, they want to control that.
The Soviet Union and the United States team up and kick some butt from the Iranians and these tourists that keep on taking our people away and doing what they want with them, you know what I'm saying?
Woodstock, or would you love to hear more and you can't wait to hear
No,
more?
I would love to hear about it because I haven't lived during that time.
Not sick of it. I mean, you know, I've been hearing it for my whole life. You know, it's this like kind of mythical thing about this event that happened for a weekend.
I think I'm a little too young, so to really remember. So it's interesting for me.
I mean, I think it was great, and it's a great memory, but it should be kind of left alone and be that. They shouldn't try and redo everything.
Well, welcome back to a completely Woodstockless edition of the Week in Rock. It was a bad week for rap acts, at least out on the LL Cool J tour. In Minneapolis on Monday, 3 men involved with that tour, a security guard, a roadie, and LL's onstage sidekick Busy Bee, were arraigned on charges of criminal sexual conduct with a 15-year-old girl after a concert at the nearby Met Center. The 3 men had been arrested the previous Thursday after the girl claimed they'd taken her back to their hotel under the pretext of meeting the star and then had sex with her while other men lined up to join in. All 3 crew members were quickly replaced on the tour, and according to the detective in charge of the case, LL Cool J himself was, quote, completely uninvolved in the alleged incident. Nor was LL responsible for the latest wave of controversy stirred up by Public Enemy, the briefly disbanded rap act that regrouped to open some LL tour dates in the Midwest. Public Enemy's latest incomprehensible move has been the reinstatement of Richard Griffin, better known as Professor Griff, the group's anti-Semitic Minister of Information. PE leader Chuck D had reluctantly dumped Griffin in late June because of an interview he'd done with the Washington Times in which Griffin said that, quote, Jews are responsible for the majority of wickedness that goes on around the globe, and made remarks along the lines of, why do you think they call it jewelry? In a recent interview with the Kansas City Jewish Chronicle, Griffin said he stood by his Washington Times quotes 100%. When asked how he could reconcile such outright anti-Semitism with Public Enemy's avowed anti-racist message, he replied, that's your problem. Despite all of this, Chuck D has brought Griffin back into the Public Enemy fold and given him a shiny new title, Supreme Allied Chief of Community Relations. In this capacity, he will not be doing any more interviews, Chuck says, but will instead devote himself to dealing with black youths who presumably will benefit in some way from exposure to his Jew-hating views. In Los Angeles this week, Rabbi Abraham Cooper of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which monitors anti-Semitism in America, described Griffin's reinstatement in Public Enemy as, quote, an outrage. In less appalling news, but sad news nevertheless, Dee Dee Ramone, the bassist, backup singer, and songwriter with the Ramones since that pioneering New York punk band's inception 15 years ago, told MTV News this week that he was leaving the group to pursue a solo career as a rapper. How come? Well, here's Dee Dee himself in his own words.
2 months ago or something like that, after the last Ramones tour, I left the group, and you know, it was a hard decision to make, because I always loved playing live with the Ramones, but you know, I had to kind of like go my own way and like stick up for myself and do what I wanted to do. They're freaked out, you know, like at first they didn't believe it. They thought I was just going through a midlife crisis, that I'd be back.
He won't be, though, and the traditional artistic differences aren't the only reason why. Finally clean and sober after years of drug and alcohol problems, Dee Dee felt that his hard-won sobriety was being endangered by the Ramones' relentless road work.
The Ramones always attracted, like, people who were heavy into drugs and stuff, and the people that come around, you know, it's a nightmare. And somehow a couple of them will always get backstage, and there it is. And like sometimes I just hung in there by the skin of my teeth, and you know, I needed a break. You know, I had to get off the road, and they just kept on getting booked and one commitment after the other, and you know, finally I just had to make a decision. It was like either that or break my sobriety, and you know, I chose to not break my sobriety. I wish them the best of luck, you know, and I think they'll be okay, because like a lot of the people that go see the Ramones, like, just heard of them, you know, like the Ramones seem to be at their peak of their popularity.
Now Dee Dee is concentrating on his own band called Strength, a rap and roll act whose debut album will be very much in the mold of the solo LP he recorded earlier this year as Dee Dee King. One track on the new album is a rap reworking of the Jimi Hendrix classic Foxy Lady, with backup by one of Dee Dee's oldest friends from the original New York punk scene.
We work with Deborah Harry on it. She does the female vocals on the chorus, and she sings to me in French, and I do a rap over it. We don't use the Foxy Lady Hendrix lyrics, but we sample his guitar. You know, like the Ramones are, to me, just like in the past now. You know, and they aren't to a lot of people. You know, a lot of people love the Ramones, but to me, they're just history.
So is Dee Dee really exiting the Ramones? The group's management points out that the bassist has made leaving noises before, but this time, yes, it may be for real. We'll keep you posted. Elsewhere on the hard rock scene, Aerosmith is back in action with a new album due out next month called Pump. It's the group's first LP since Permanent Vacation, their 1987 comeback smash. And when we caught up with the boys in Los Angeles recently, they were filming a video for its first single, a song called Love in an Elevator, which is about, well, let's let Steven Tyler explain.
It's a great place to do it, especially when you're under fire like that. It makes you get off quicker.
The place in question is an elevator, which figures to be a passion pit with plenty of ups and downs, and Aerosmith's latest single and video, Love in an Elevator. It's just one sleazy slice from their upcoming album, another tongue-in-cheek sexcapade called Pump, a title which the band claims is about getting the heart pumping. Singer and songwriter Steven Tyler says he found his muse on this record in a colorful place, a popular strip joint in Vancouver, Canada.
The girls do 3 songs. First song is with their clothes on. Second song is them taking their clothes off, and the third song is them writhing on the stage on a blanket, you know, taking a shower and doing all kinds of lifting. As we were lifting our glasses in cheer, they were lifting their legs. And so, I mean, it's just so hot. You got to see it. You know, it's just like you get out and you go, all right, time to write a hit.
The album isn't only about sex, though, as Aerosmith take musical aim at drugs, child abuse, and Tipper Gore of the Parents Music Resource Center.
I have a nice little message to Tipper on this album. It's a song called F-I-N-E. And I use, I say, and Tipper says it's all right. Joe Perry says it's, you know, I'm not afraid of her. I think that they blow things out of proportion, and I think that Tipper is, she's playing dirty pool.
1987's Permanent Vacation LP marked a musical departure and a return to the top of the charts for the band. But this time out, they shifted gears a bit. In one way, by exploring Tyler's pet concept, psychoacoustics.
Sometimes when you get 3 or 4 instruments playing at once, you get discords and harmonies going on that causes things to be going on that aren't there, that you think you hear, but really isn't. You know what I mean? And those are called psychoacoustics. You'll hear 2 notes bleeding into each other, and it sounds like fiddles, and you go, "Ooh, let's put fiddles on there." Then the argument starts, well, if you think you hear them, why put them on? It destroys the mystique, quote unquote, Joe Perry. So, of course, I say, gee, you're right again, Joe.
You're my angel. Come save me tonight.
The last album was kind of a lot of different kinds of things that we were trying. There was some funk and, you know, a couple of ballads and some real bluesy stuff like Hangman Jury. And this one is a little more focused in terms of just the drums kicking away and the guitars flying along on top, and of course Steven, you know, wailing along.
Aerosmith couldn't be happier with Pump or more optimistic about the future, but they're the first ones to admit they don't have all the answers.
It's fun to think that I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. I don't. I'm just cruising along, sailing along.
Proud to have a job.
Proud to have a job, packing up my troubles in my old kit bag.
Pump, the new LP by Aerosmith, will be out on September 12th. We're going to take a quick break right now, but we've still got Boy George and a look at the merchandising of rock music, so don't go away. Welcome back to the Week in Rock. As the cross-dressing frontman for Culture Club, Boy George became an international star 7 years ago with such hits as Do You Really Want to Hurt Me and I'll Tumble For You. Then in 1986 came tabloid scandals and drug addiction, and suddenly Culture Club was history, and Boy George could no longer get a visa to perform in the United States. It's all changing now, though. George has a new solo single out called Don't Take My Mind on a Trip. He's writing and recording with his erstwhile Culture Club colleagues again, and with his drug problems behind him, he's finally got a visa to visit us once more, something he'll be doing next month, in fact. But here he is right now with a quick update.
I've got been given my visa back for 2 months. And I think that's probably just to find out if I'm going to behave myself. But I am anyway. You know, I've been clean for 3 years now. And I'm a lot healthier than I ever was before my drugs problem. I work out now. I walk for half an hour every day. I take singing lessons now. I mean, I think a part of it is to do the fact that I'm 28 now. I think that there's something about being 28. A lot of friends of mine that have 28 have started sort of working out and will becoming vegetarians. I think it's a paranoia age. But, you know, I'm going to be going to LA later this month or next month to do some promotion. Because, I mean, obviously a lot of people in America haven't had the opportunity to see me. And obviously I guess they've all got these same ideas about what I'm like and what kind of state I'm in, you know. So I guess it would be good to just go and say, hi, everybody, you know.
Boy George back at last. From T-shirts and tour jackets to brochures and band buttons, rock music in the 80s is awash with merchandising. Some major groups these days can make almost as much hawking souvenir goods outside their gigs as they can from straight ticket sales. And The Who, a band that's left no scam untried in its current search for maximum profits, is expected to make somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million this summer from merchandising alone. How does merchandising work, and who are the other people that profit from it? Let's meet a few.
The kids want T-shirts. They love T-shirts.
And everybody in the world wears T-shirts.
The first thing you used to do at rock concerts is scramble to your seat and get ready for the show. Now you scramble for a place in line at the T-shirt stand.
So the major competition seems to center around Winterland and Brockham. We're kind of the Coca-Cola and Pepsi of the industry.
Winterland is housed in a 5-story building in San Francisco, where merchandise for acts like Bruce Springsteen, Madonna, and George Michael is conceived and made. On the premises are offices, designers, and manufacturing that can make 60,000 to 70,000 T-shirts a day. Meanwhile, their East Coast-based competition, Brockham, cranks out millions of T-shirts for acts like Guns N' Roses, the Rolling Stones, and one of their biggest sellers, Metallica.
Anything that's got Metallica on it, I'll buy it. I love this. This is bad.
Bands have a look, and we try and reflect the look that they have. When we get it just right, we do very well.
Merchandisers have tried to market that look and feel in as many different ways as possible. For Japan, there's the Metallican, a marketing idea that contains a T-shirt and the latest Metallica CD.
A lot of our clients sit with the designers. All of our clients have full artistic approval.
I kind of spent like a day with him, and we went through, must have been about 4,000 slides, because he obviously has a very strong idea of what he wants in the book. There's kind of strange situations where sometimes you've done like a lot of work, and all the work rests on the approval of like one of the band members' girlfriends.
Last year, I had mostly girl colors, and that really, you know, bugged me, because if a guy wanted to buy a shirt, he's not going to put on pink.
We think that's too much, even though they're a good band, you know.
The price is made up of 3 major components. The facility that you go into charges a rent facility. That's at least 1/3. The band gets a royalty, and then there's the cost of product.
No, I think they're not overpriced. I think inflation, and, you know, you got Bush in the White House.
Bootlegging is a real serious problem in the merchandising business. It's an expensive problem, and the cost of which kind of adds to the price of the shirts.
It's a big business. Everybody does it. The Pope does merchandise.
The show in Boston is going to be sold out?
Yeah.
How much, you going to do some big business?
But we don't do the Pope. We do Prince instead.
That's where your money goes. Bid it farewell. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with a Paul McCartney mini concert, Tom Petty on tour, and who knows what else. We leave you now with more Aerosmith, and we'll see you next week.